Hi, everyone. Welcome to Passport to Profit, the podcast where we explore what it really takes to leave behind a steady paycheck and build a business. One filled with purpose, freedom, and yes, passion. I'm your host, Jeanie Colclough, travel entrepreneur, the founder of Riveting Trips, and a former teacher turned full time business owner. So I'm here to introduce you to successful strategies to grow as a travel agent. Each week, I'm going to take you behind the scenes what it means to design a career and a life on your own terms. Whether you dream of becoming a luxury travel advisor, starting your own business, or just stepping into something new, you're in the right place. So, welcome. So, today we're going to talk about, in the very first episode, about taking that leap of faith. The moment you decide, I can't do this anymore, it's time to bet on myself, right? You got to leave your own life behind. So, let's talk about my own life story. So, if you told me 15 years ago that I would one day be running a travel agency, helping other people explore the world, or I'd be hosting a podcast, helping others become entrepreneurs, I would have laughed. It'd be like, no way, Jose, right? Back then, I was a teacher, and until most recently, I was a teacher. I love history, I love connecting with students, working with my peers, and I really believe education was my forever career. But then something shifted, right? Something shifted when I had my first child, and I think sometimes with that responsibility comes more desire to grow a legacy. So between grading papers and prepping lessons, I would spend my weekends and late nights planning trips, not just for myself, for friends and family. They'd ask questions about Italy, South Korea, France, UK, Spain, etc. Right? And I found a lot of joy in creating these experiences that transform how people experience the world. I want to create more global citizens, and I was totally keen on it. And at first, it was just a hobby. And then it becomes a side hustle, right? And then it becomes this whisper in my mind, what if this could be more? So I remember the day I realized I couldn't ignore it anymore. I spend my weekends, planning other people's trips and thinking, how can I do more than this? So in the classroom, I was sitting and I saw this poster that said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I thought, hey, what about my world, right? I'm here busy taking care of these students and stuff, but what about fulfilling my needs and my desires, right? So I wanted some freedom. If you're a teacher out there, that your schedule is kind of tied to the school schedule, and it's very hard to ask for time off. It's what's even worse is getting a sub who destroys or doesn't follow your sub plans, right? So I want some freedom, the ability to attend my own children's activities, because I couldn't, because their back to school night conflicted with my back to school night, stuff like that. I also wanted creative control. If you work for a boss, right? If you work for the district, you may have directives that you don't want to implement or don't understand why you have to implement, right? Creative control and the ability to design my own life. So I think you have that flexibility as a travel advisor to work. All you need is a laptop and you have some freedom. So let me tell you something, that taking that leap isn't that glamorous. It can be a little scary. It was messy, emotional, and full of what ifs. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't get any clients? What if I lose everything I've worked for? Still, something inside me knew that staying where I was meant losing even more, something more important, right? The chance to grow, to take a risk. It is a risk that you're taking, right? So I made a plan. When I started, I was a little bit younger than now, but I wasn't in my teens or 20s, right? When you're kind of brazen and a little bit more reckless. I had kids, I have a mortgage, I have responsibility. So I saved money. I researched what it meant to start a travel business, and I gave myself permission to begin imperfectly. And that's how Riveting Trips was born, out of a deep desire to help others see the world and show my kids that you can build a life that excites you every single day. So I'm going to ask or talk about why you think that leap feels so scary, right? So if you're listening right now and thinking, oh, that sounds so amazing, but I could never do that, I want you to know you absolutely can. Most people don't leave their jobs because of lack of ability. They stay because of fear, right? The fear of the unknown, the fear of losing security, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of a steady paycheck. I understand. The truth is that fear does not go away. You have to learn to move forward with it. When I was starting out, I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't have a background in sales or marketing. But what I did have was curiosity, discipline, and the willingness to learn. So if you have a MBA or something, you're already many, many steps ahead of me. If you're the kind of person who just wants to show up and learn and talk to people and grow from people, then you have what it takes. You can start a travel business. The other skills can be taught or learned. These systems are very rudimentary and we can teach you them. That the mindset is that you have to be open-minded, and that is what unlocks everything. And so that is why this podcast exists, to help you make that shift from employee thinking to entrepreneur thinking. So let's talk about these shifts. There are 3 major shifts, I believe, that you have to undertake. So the first one is to stop waiting for permission. As an adult, you have the ability to redirect the life the way you want, right? So in a job, you often wait for your boss, or your department chair, or your partner to tell you, yes, this is a good idea. No, this is a bad idea. Or no, we don't have the budget for it this time. So you can't always keep waiting for the right time. It'll never come. There is no such thing as perfection, right? And that's number 2. Focus on progress and not perfection. So when I first started riveting trips, my website wasn't perfect. My logo wasn't perfect. I made mistakes. Here's the thing, that action creates clarity, right? If you spend 90% of your time just overthinking ideas, you will never get there. You just need to build. Even now, as I build our host agency and train new advisors, I tell them done is better than perfect, because perfect never launches. And then the last one is redefine your meaning of success. So when I left my job, I had to redefine what success meant, right? As a high school teacher, success meant that a certain percentage of students passed the AP exam. So, because I used to teach AP World History and AP Government, and we didn't have benchmarks, but I had a benchmark, okay? Let's say 90% of students pass, or 95% of students pass that exam. And those are really high exam pass rates, just FYI, because the national pass rate on most exams are 50 to 60% total. Anyway, so for me, as a business owner now, I have to think, what does success mean in my life? It's about impact, the freedom to create, and being fulfilled. So if you feel like your career doesn't reflect who you've become, that's your sign. Success evolves, and you're allowed to evolve, right? And hopefully, if you have a partner or a significant other, they understand that you yourself are evolving, right? So if you're listening today and you're standing at that crossroads, wondering if you should take the leap, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to quit your job today, right? You don't have to quit it tomorrow, but just start building your company today, right? Just start building your runway. So that means maybe researching host agencies, signing up for a free course on how to start luxury travel business. Maybe it's journaling and figuring out. For me, a lot of ideas generate when I go on my runs and I think, and then a lot of ideas generate when I'm running, right? That's solo activity. So whatever it is, just start. Move that needle, as they say, just a smidge. One day you're going to realize and go, the only thing standing between you and success is that decision to begin. So if today's episode resonated with you and you've been feeling that tug to start something of your own, I want you to take the next step, or I want to help you take that next step, right? I've created a free mini course called How to Start Luxury Travel Business. It walks you through the exact steps I took to go from employee to entrepreneur, from mindset to setting up your first systems. You can find it on our website, and in the link below, it'll show you the information. And also, we have a Facebook group for our students and advisors. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show and take their own leap too. I'm your host, Jeanie Colclough, and this is Passport to Profit. Until next time, please remember, you don't need to map out your journey. You just need to take the first step. Ciao, ciao, everybody.